Here we go. Jerry Jones is not in a feel-good mood about the Dallas Cowboys 2-4 record, despite the fact they are currently in first place in the NFC East and would make the playoffs. What do you guys have to say?
As much I don't like Jerry Jones, I don't blame him. I don't blame him how he's feeling right now. Solely because one, he fired Jason Garrett last season. He brought in an offensive-minded Mike McCarthy. He drafted C.D. Lamb. In other words, and he spent a lot of money on the defense, especially on the defensive line this past offseason. And for them to have a 2-4 record is just outrageous right now. Zeke last game fumbled the ball 2 times. What's his name? Andy Dalton threw 2 interceptions. So in total, last game they had a total of 4 turnovers. So at this rate, I don't see how this Dallas Cowboys team going to go. I mean, with all the key pieces that they have right now, what they're missing right now is a quarterback that could lead them, lead them to the playoff. But I feel right now, Andy Dalton is not the guy that's going to take them all the way.
I disagree with you. Where the point that you was going with, making it seem like Jerry Jones is absolutely not to blame for the Cowboys' dysfunction right now. I urge you to look at the possible head coaches that was available that he could have went with instead of going with Mike McCarthy. I'll bring up guys like Urban Meyer, Lincoln Riley, Bob Stoops, Matt Rule, he could have went with Eric Bieniemy, he could have went with Josh McDaniels, he could have went with. All those are great offensive minds, but yet you want to go with a guy, Mike McCarthy, whose offense is played out, more played out than the CD that you listen to 1,000 million times, okay? Literally. So I blame Jerry Jones in this instance because Jerry Jones had the opportunity to hire a great offensive-minded head coach, but we all know Jerry Jones is very one-sided with the way how he look at the hiring process. We all know Jerry Jones is not like that, and that comes at a detriment because if you're one-sided and you already know who you want to hire and not listen to others, because from what I heard, Mike McCarthy spending the night, he already knew in his mind that that's the guy he was going to go with. That comes to a detriment because you're not doing what's best for the team. You want to play friends. How long did it take for him to move on from Jason Garrett? He should have been fired 5 years ago. He took a long time to fire him. Even last year, when he got fired, it took a minute for him to blurt out his mouth. We moving on from him.
So why do you put all the blame on Jerry Jones? I mean, at the end of the day, like, don't Jerry Jones sign?
I literally just told you. I literally just told you why. Because
but I'm just saying though, like, it's not Jerry's fault that the Cowboys are like 2-4 right now. You know what I mean? It's the players. Right?
The players came out against the coaches. Didn't the players just come out talking about the coaches they never come prepared? Like, didn't they just came out and say, they had never prepared or anything? Like, they literally just said that. So obviously a lot of it has to do with coaching. Before Dak got hurt, there was a lot of coaching errors that I saw with the Cowboys in a lot of games, a lot of crucial aspects of the game.
Yeah, sorry about that. My internet was just bugging out for a bit. I think when you look at this, I watched that Cowboy game on Monday night, and, like, here's the first thing that really came to mind, right, is that I believe no matter what position you are, right, if you're making, like, a boatload of money, you need to do things that help your team win, and especially when other players get hurt. And when Dak Prescott got hurt, I looked at Ezekiel Elliott, a guy that, let's face it, hasn't been the same player since he got paid, right? Like, he had that whole to do about that contract, went to Cabo, all that. To me, hasn't been the same player since he got paid. One of the more overrated players in the league, to be honest. And when you look at it, I expected him to go out on Monday night and say, all right, if the Cowboys are going to win this game, you need him to have a big game. And this dude has 2 fumbles in the first quarter. That cannot happen. That cannot happen. And I think when you look at this Cowboys team right now, their defense is an absolute disgrace. I don't know how Mike Nolan still has a job. I understand he brought Mike McCarthy into the league, but those are kind of the problems that are going on with Dallas right now. In terms of who I would blame, I think a lot of it, could go on many different people. But for me, the number one culprit, it's Mike McCarthy himself.
And that's why I blame Jerry Jones, because that's the guy he hired.
Right. And the thing is, though, Will, I'm going to ask you this. It's just, if you're the Dallas Cowboys, like, I understand you're going to want to bring in a winner and a guy that, long-term is going to make the team best. But, like, you know how that fan base is, man. Like, if they were going to bring in anyone else not named – like, I'm not saying Mike McCarthy was the right hire. I just don't – like, maybe you're right. They could have gotten Urban Meyer if he really wanted to leave. Like, but if those guys didn't want to go, like it's hard because Mike McCarthy clearly did have the best resume, but he's not a good coach. Like
He's not exactly. It's almost like what we see in the NBA with a lot of teams that just settling for guys with played out systems, like Stan Van Gundy. I didn't like that hire for the Pelicans like that. Coach Thibodeau. Before I liked the hire, but when I thought about it, I'm like, he's played out. Guys don't play defense now. So my point is that. I think you will have to go with coaches that are more innovative, that that bring life into the league now. Like think about Coach Kingsbury. That was a risk. A lot of people was like, "Oh, he's going to bring this air raid system to the NFL," and it's really innovative and it's really working right now. So who's to say Urban Meyer's system couldn't work, or Lincoln Riley, where he runs in Oklahoma, couldn't work?
I mean, Will, I don't know if you heard the story in the offseason, but Mike McCarthy last year actually took a year off from coaching. Right. And in that year, he apparently was very focused on analytics and, doing the right thing in the percentages. And I think that's a big reason as to why Jerry Jones hired him. I think he was kind of out here to try to reinvent himself as this new age analytic guy, especially after taking a year off. And that's what I think a big reason why Cowboys fans were so excited for their team to hire him. And obviously it just hasn't worked out. But I'm telling you, man, like a big key to that team is their defense, and their defensive coordinator has to go. Mike Nolan
is terrible.
Mike Nolan was the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers, I believe, in the early 2000s, and he was really the one that gave Mike McCarthy his first job coaching, I believe, as their defensive back coach. And I feel like Mike McCarthy, that was like the big reason why he hired this dude, Mike Nolan. He's been out of football for a couple of years, kind of as a thank you, and his defense has just been absolutely atrocious. The Cowboys aren't going anywhere until they get that taken care of.
You let Kenyon Drake rush over 100 yards on you guys? And mind you now, Kenyon Drake is an inconsistent back. Get what I mean? And I just felt like, remember this past offseason, they got some key guys on the D line. I'm thinking, oh snap, the Cowboys going to have a nice, have a nice front four. But dang, guys, like they giving up over nearly 400 yards, 400, total yards a game, and that's terrible.